Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Big John here. And we've got the awesome Paul Rimmer and Patrick McGinnis as well. And it's all about Liverpool today. It's all about Merseyside. If you want to know more about our party, there's a party link going into the chat right now. You can join, donate. I've got a little bit of an echo there.
Is that me again?
No, that was me. I sorted. That was me. I've sorted it out.
Okay. And a good evening to everyone as well. I'm at home. I've got my mum next to me for however long she's here. And let's get the discussion started. Paul, over to you.
In my Liverpool home, in my Liverpool home, we speak with an accent exceedingly rare, meet under a statue exceedingly bare. If you want a cathedral, we've got one to spare. In my Liverpool home. Liverpool is a magnificent city. It's got a fantastic history. It's got amazing architecture. You've been there, Pat. You've been there, John. Is that right, or is that right?
It certainly has.
You got the River Mersey flowing through. You've got the docks, which have all been renovated. The Albert Dock, thanks to Michael Heseltine, did a great job. You got the Three Graces there, the Liver buildings, one of the most famous buildings in the world, the iconic Liver bird on top of the tower. You've got St. George's Hall, the most magnificent neoclassical building in Europe. It's just full of glory, Liverpool. It's full of history. Of course, we have a little musical reputation. Small band called the Beatles. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm in song tonight. Anyway, yeah, so we've got a great musical tradition, the Cavern, Eric's, and we've got a couple of soccer teams, Everton and another team, I can't remember the name now. Oh, Bill Shankly's boys, Liverpool Football Club. But the heart and soul of Liverpool is the Scouser. We're a lively bunch. We love a laugh and a joke. We're not slow to voice our opinions. And, you know, we're a mixture of Welsh, Irish, a little bit of Scottish, of course, English, from our Lancashire roots. And we sail the seven seas. We have a phenomenal maritime history. Liverpool was the port of the empire. You know, at one stage, Liverpool was richer than London in the 1860s. And, you know, they actually talked about moving the capital north to Liverpool because Liverpool's like the twin city of New York. But it's a fantastic city. It's fantastic inheritance. And yet it's all about to go down the chute. This is the tragedy. This is the tragedy of modern Britain, isn't it? Let me ask you a question, John. John Lawrence. How many Muslims lived in Liverpool in 2001? So Blair was in power not that long ago, this century. How many Muslims are in Liverpool?
Not many. I wouldn't say there were any particular big concentration of population. Just sporadic families, maybe. But
we had a Somali community which came from the sailors from Somalia, and some Yemenis which come from the sailors from Aden. And there was a few others, but that was it. There was literally, in 2001, this is after Blair had come to power, so the floodgates had been opened and he was starting to come in. And apparently there was about 4,000 Muslims in Liverpool, which compared to Bradford and Manchester and Birmingham and London, where there's multi-millions, was a tiny number, you know. So the presence, they were very much on the periphery of Liverpool. Pat, how many Muslims live in Liverpool now, just 22 years later?
I've got no idea, Paul, but I mean, I should imagine it is a lot more than what you just said.
Give us a figure, Pat. Just pluck any figure out the air.
300,000.
The population of the city has gone up to over 500,000. And the reason for that is 50,000 Muslims have come into the city in 20 years. So you can imagine the impact that's having on certain areas of the city.
So the population of Liverpool's 500,000, Paul?
That's just the city. Within the urban area, there's about 2 million. But within the city, it's 500,000. It was actually 420,000 at the start of the 1990s. It had gone down and it was quite stable at that. And then the immigrants started to arrive. And it's gone up over 100,000. All that has been driven by immigration from the third world. The actual population of Scousers has continued to fall. Not by much, but it's fallen. And sadly, it's about to fall off a cliff because people don't realise it. You see, the truth is, and Joe Owens has got to focus on this because he's making these videos every day saying Liverpool's being transformed, we're losing our Scouse heritage, our city, the population's changing every day, they're coming in and changing it. We're going to lose our culture and our traditions and our standards. The fact is, and Joe Owens is going to have to recognise this, demography is destiny. You ever heard that, Pat?
Demographics is destiny, yeah.
Demography, the population, the movement of the population, that's the future. That's destiny. It was a French sociologist called Auguste Comte who coined that term. Now, because of changing demographics, Liverpool is becoming a different city. Yeah, we've had the Muslim population increase tenfold in just over 20 years, but it's growing faster than ever now. I mean, there's no resistance to it. And the Labour Council are facilitating the movement of Muslims from all over the UK, all over the world, into Liverpool. They get a priority for social housing. Social housing now in Liverpool, or any housing, is extremely difficult to get because it's all being saturated by Muslim immigration. Okay, so you're looking at the social services. Not only are the social services now being directed towards serving the Muslim community, the people who are staffing the social services are Muslims as well. The housing associations are being taken over by Muslims. The local council is, you know, every area of life, the NHS is. It's our NHS. No, it's not. You go in the NHS, you stand at the back of a queue of Muslim immigrants, and you're going to be looked at by a Muslim doctor and Muslim nurses. It's like their NHS, and we're just, you know, coming along to try and get our foot through the door, and it's not so easy. So this is a mega transformation. Now, focused on the Muslim population, because that's the most dramatic change, of course, there's also been a huge increase in the number of Africans, which have gone from like 700-800 Africans. I mean, we've always had a Liverpool, what they call a black population. Scousers used to call them half caste, mixed race people, the sons of Jamaican sailors or West African sailors and Scouse girls. And, you know, that's always been part of the city. But this is new, you know, this is sort of an African communities, Nigerians, Ghanaians, self-consciously African, moving in and forming their little colonies, but not on the scale of the Muslims, you know, because we're seeing like big mosque now, and there's now 4 mega mosques in Liverpool, and there's Bangladeshi associations, Pakistani associations, you know, look, Arab madrasas. So you can imagine a city like Liverpool, which has got a very strong spirit and a very strong sense of community and of itself and of its people. Scouse people are like, we're very tribal. And you can imagine how much this is impacting the city. People are watching it and watching it change. And Joe Owens has said, we've got to protest about this. If we voted an election, you know, things could change and whatever. But the truth is, this is just the symptom of what's been going on, really, for the past 50 years. Because in 1967, Harold Wilson and his Labour government changed not only Liverpool, but Britain irredeemably. Well, maybe hopefully it's not irredeemable, but it seems to be at the moment. He legalized abortion, the premeditated murder of preborn children, and said, oh, well, this is just to clean up all these backstreet abortions. There was something like 80 backstreet abortions a year in Liverpool. Today, we're talking about 2,000 legal abortions a year. Now do the statistics, do the maths, Pat. 1967's abortions legalised, 2,000 abortions in Liverpool every single year since. What's that? That's 333, 46 years times 2 is 1892. You know, you're looking at over 100,000 children have been killed in Liverpool. That should be here now, should be part of the city and the energy of the city and the life and the soul of the city, the young generation coming through to give us a future. No, they were killed. They were murdered in abortion clinics. You know, their life was snuffed out before it even began. And, you know, we have a God. I believe there's a God, and I believe God is a judge. And he looks upon this and he goes, what have you done? What have you done to my children? Because we are the children of God. God creates us. You know, God, it says in the Bible, God knits us together in the womb. We have smashed into that plan and that design that God had for us and destroyed these children. And this is a terrible guilt hanging over this city and this nation. And there's judgment for that. I believe this is what this invasion is all about. It's judgment upon the British people for turning away from God. Now, the truth is the British people never asked for mass abortion. They never asked for sodomy to be legalised. They never asked for easy divorce. These were all imposed on the British people by the elite, notably the Labour Party elite, the Harold Wilson government. And very few people know this, but all the bigwigs in the Harold Wilson government, the likes of Tony Crossland, Roy Jenkins, and Hugh Dalton, they were all promiscuous homosexuals. They were all perverts. And they were all against our traditional Christian culture. This is what Labour was like in the 1960s, just as it was like under Tony Blair. The same agenda: destroy us, destroy our nation, destroy our Christian inheritance, destroy our traditions, bring in people from the Islamic world, alien faiths, and of course Hindus. Now, the Hindu population of Liverpool has doubled from 3,000 to 6,000, not like the Muslim, which has exploded. But Rishi Sunak is trying to correct that, and he's trying to bring in as many Indians as he can. And so we see this happening. And Joe Owen, to his credit, is going around with a camera, and he's highlighting this. And he's talking about the problems it's creating and the tensions. But what's the solution, John? We vote for you. Will it change anything? Won't have much impact. It might. It'll be a howl in the darkness. But why don't we call the people of Liverpool to repentance and say, let's turn away from this pagan lifestyle that we've embraced and come back to God? Because without three things, a nation cannot be sustained. You must have faith, you must have a family, and you must have children. It was Pope John Paul II who said, no nation can survive mass abortion. You stop your future children, your nation's finished. And this is the truths that Christian leaders should have been saying. But the church itself, the long march through the institutions, the Marxist Gramscian march through the institutions, the church itself was invaded and taken over by the Marxists. And the church didn't stand up to defend our Christian heritage. Individual Christians did. And my good friend Ian Paisley said, as long as we've got the Bible, there is hope. Because the Bible speaks very clearly on these issues and tells us what's right and what's wrong. We can't do the wrong thing and think we can get away with it. If we act, it says in the Bible, righteousness, doing the right thing, lifts up a nation, exalts a nation. But sin is a reproach to any people. When you sin, God points the finger at you and you're condemned. Now, we as a nation, after 1967, when Labour changed all our laws to break up the family, to undermine our Christian faith, to stop us having children, ever since 1967, we've been on a slippery slope to destruction. And it's never been corrected, you know?
I mean, UK wide, I believe it's around 12 million abortions has happened since it was legalised. I might be wrong on that figure, but it's very significant that also I put a tweet out the other day saying that if the health service was a pay-as-you-go service and you had to pay for your treatment, how many of those abortions would have been cancelled when the mother would have changed her mind? I think there would have been millions. You know, I really do, because the NHS were paying for it. It's just like, yeah, just turn up, do the abortion, whatever, and take the medication, and it's all very like pushed on them, sort of thing. And like you say, it's a combination of removing Christianity, the welfare state, and the bankers and the communists. It's like a four-pronged attack on our Christian way of life. And so, yeah, it's just an absolute tragedy that this has happened to not only our country, it's all over the West, all over the Western world. And, you know, like, would have we needed, well, I don't think we needed the immigration anyway, but they keep saying we needed the immigrants, because our birth rate has been declining. So, yeah, that was an interesting tweet I put out the other day. But going back to Liverpool's interesting because Liverpool was probably one of the last major cities in the UK which was predominantly indigenous British. And credit to Joe Owens, because, you know, he hasn't just started saying it now. What's going on? He was in the National Front, he was in the BNP, like your good self, Paul Rimmer. And you are all legends, everyone who tried to save this country in a legal and democratic and peaceful way. Absolute heroes, every single one of you. And, you know, I've got to give it to Joe Owens because he hasn't just started talking about this now, but it's ironic that it's his city, which is kind of like the last major city in the UK. Even Glasgow, I think, went before Liverpool.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for that, Pat. And you've sort of hinted at it there a bit, because Liverpool had two very powerful Christian traditions: the Orange tradition, the Protestant tradition, the evangelical tradition, the Bible tradition, which when I was growing up in the 1960s, I was part of that. I went to a state school, but in that state school, we were taught scripture. We were given a Christian service in the assembly. We were told that we were a Christian nation and a Christian people, and Christian values were the most desirable ever. You know, that was the essence of life. So, and of course, on the corner of my street, Margaret Road in Walton, there was a big Baptist church, Stuart Road Baptist, and we didn't go there every Sunday, but we went to the Bible clubs. We learned all the Bible stories. And in Liverpool, there was a very powerful Orange Order, the Orange Lodge. 12,000 used to march on the 12th of July. There was an Orange Hall there, and all the Protestants used to go to the Orange Hall. But on the other side of the coin, there was the Catholics. And Liverpool was a very holy Catholic city. I remember growing up, and you say, oh, Catholic girls don't have sex before marriage. Catholic, I'm a good Catholic. I'm going to say be a virgin on my marital day, you know. And Catholics don't have abortions. I mean, all credit to the Catholic Church. He stood up strong against abortion in 1967 from the off. I mean, the Church of England just went along with it all in a very seedy way. But so Liverpool there was a big Catholic population from the Irish immigrants in the past. And they had massive families. I mean, I had a mate, Jimmy Winky. He was one of 22 kids. It wasn't unusual to find an Irish family in Liverpool in the 1970s who would have 12, 15 kids. That was not unusual. And on the other side of the coin, my mother and father, who were both sort of Protestants, they were one of 8. My dad had 7 brothers and sisters. My mum had 7 brothers and sisters. So we in Liverpool, we had this Christian tradition didn't die so quickly as other English cities like Birmingham or, you know, Sheffield, London itself. Liverpool, right up until I can remember 20 years ago, a mass march through Liverpool by the churches against abortion. That's all 20 years ago, though. It's all gone. I mean, ecumenicalism come in and everything was watered down. And then, you know, the Church of England went more and more woke, and the Catholics kept up the battle for a long time. But now, under this present joke of a pope, they've surrendered. But that's one of the reasons why Liverpool endured as a city and had such a spirit. Liverpool, the reason Liverpool has a spirit, I mean, the word community, it comes from the communion in church, where you share the bread and the wine. If you attend a church every week, that is such a lively community, you know. And there were so many churches in Liverpool, and they ran football clubs, they ran boxing teams, they put plays on, they had kids groups, they had BB, they had the Scouts. It created a community, a cohesive community. And of course, the cherry on the cake was our football clubs, Liverpool and Everton, you know, 60, 70,000 every week. Legendary teams, two of the biggest clubs in the world, without a doubt. So many great figures: Bill Shankly, Alan Ball, Dixie Dean, the legendary, scored 60 goals in a season, and all the music that come in the 60s, 50s, and 60s. You know, there was a vitality in Liverpool. I actually knew a lady who used to teach music at a chapel in Liverpool, Ebenezer Chapel. She used to teach the kids in the choir how to sing. She taught Billy Fury how to sing. That song, Three Steps to Paradise, what was it? Halfway to Paradise. Billy Fury was the first great Liverpool superstar. She taught him to sing in her church choir. And then she taught Jerry Marsden to sing in her church choir. Jerry Marsden, Ferry Across the Mersey, You'll Never Walk Alone. I mean, these people wrote anthems which become legendary, eternal anthems, you know. And
you can't see me, but I am here, guys. I am here. Please like and subscribe to the party website. Put the link in a couple of times, and you can donate as well. Liverpool, our sweet Liverpool. I've been going to Liverpool since I was in my 20s, and like Paul said, there's loads of history around Liverpool. One of the greatest cities in the UK, simple as. But I mean, the suffering now that the Liverpudlians are suffering with what's going on. We've seen the left attacking just normal general members of the public in certain areas in Merseyside because of the hotels are filling up. We've seen young girls get pulled on the streets, trying to get the phone numbers off them. We've seen that there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of security alerts coming from all the schools around the areas in question to parents and stuff like that. Obviously, people are frightened, but all we've got is the Liverpool mayor, Joanne Anderson, going down shouting, calling everyone PC and buzzwords. And then we've got rock-throwing rioters, Michelle Smith, convicted rock-throwing rioters, trying to grab people's phones. And, you know, I don't blame Liverpool people for being angry with the council, with all the councillors, the services. Liverpool right now is under investigation for 100 million going out of the pot in Liverpool. And if I was a Scouser, I will be absolutely furious. So, you know, we want to see change in Liverpool, and we're going to see change in Liverpool. But I do feel sorry for them. They've had it really hard past 6 months off the mayors, the councillors, the media. They really have. And not for anything particular, you know, not for something that's substantial. It's for substantial things against the working class people. So I really don't blame them, and it's changing. If you watch Joe Owens's videos, in a couple of them, he says he's not even safe walking down that street where he used to grow up or something like that. And that just pains me. It just absolutely pains me. But yeah, it's unbelievable what's going on at the moment in Liverpool. How the people are being treated, especially. I've said it many times. I know I'll keep saying it. You know, until you stand up and do something, nothing's going to change. And that's what we need, people to stand up. I know that there is other councillors who aren't all bad. We did run into a Lib Dem councillor one time, me and Tom. He seemed all right and that, but he's outnumbered by the ways of the crooked Labour politicians there. And no one's telling me that 100 million went missing without half them politicians and councillors knowing. I just can't, honestly, I'm just not having it. But, you know, Liverpool, big part of my youth growing up, we used to go to the clubs on the Docklands a lot in the 90s, DJing and stuff like that. So, you know, I've always spent time in Merseyside throughout the years. And, you know, it's part of up north, and it's just as Merseyside, just as beautiful as my city of Manchester, just as beautiful. And we're in the north, and we're pioneers of a lot of things. But back to you, lads. Back to you.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, just shout out to everyone in the chat: Mark Williams, Serena, Vincent Cooney, Ugly Truth, Craigs. Anybody I missed out there? Paul Evangeli, good to see you there. But yeah, just a quick announcement. We do need canvassers for John's campaign in Oldham. We need people to go with John, knocking on doors. We've got an up-and-coming campaign in Merseyside. We're going to be targeting. We're going to need canvassers for that ward as well. So anyone in the Northwest, please get in touch with us. And we're a growing party. You can join the party, £22 a year, £11 unwaged. Yeah, so it's all happening. Please get in contact with us. John Lawrence definitely needs help in his ward to knock on doors, speak to the public. I've been out recently speaking to the public and been getting a lot of positive messages from them about the party. And I've bumped into quite a few of my old voters and that. They're going to vote for me again next time around. So, yeah, it's all happening. Over to you, Paul.
Well, this is it. We've got to look to the future now. I've spoken about the past, spoken about the way the city has evolved and where we are at the moment. Now, something John hinted at there, corruption. Yeah, there's been corruption, rampant corruption in the Liverpool City Council. But of course, this corruption is also taking place in places like Bolton, probably Oldham as well, Birmingham, London, Tower Hamlets. But these cases are not highlighted because it's politically incorrect to point out who's doing the wrong in these cities. You know, the Muslim mafia who take over the Labour Party. You see, once the Muslims take over, or any outside group takes over the Labour Party and takes over the council, things start to change. They make sure the resources go to their people. Councils have a lot of assets which they can sell off cheap to their friends.
If they've got any left.
To their own community, yeah. But all these things will happen, you see. It's not that suddenly we've arrived at this situation where Liverpool has a big Muslim population, like other cities in the UK for the first time. It's going ahead in the future. These people are going to entrench their power, and they're going to use their power to expand their base on this city, to bring more people in, to control social housing, to control the education system and the health system and the provision of resources across the city. They want power. They want our money. They will have access to our money and they'll grow. So how do we counteract this? Are we just going to become, a football to be kicked around? This is still our city. It was our ancestors that built it. It's our inheritance. We're just going to squander it, just see it thrown in the gutter. See, the only way we can fight back is if we get organised on the right principles. And this is where the National Housing Party comes in. We have the right principles. We're a Christian nationalist party. Now, you might say this is going to be an uphill struggle, but it's a struggle we're going to have to fight, because if no one fights on our behalf, we're going to be pushed to the margin and pushed over the edge. Because you've got to remember, all these groups, whether they be Black Africans, whether they be Chinese, whether they be from the Indian subcontinent, Hindus or Muslims, they had people fighting on their behalf. Associations, organizations, the Black Police Officers Association, the Bangladeshi Association, the lobbying, the Muslim Solicitors Legal Association. They're lobbying on behalf.
Dare you have a white organization? How dare you?
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's not even all white. just someone who speaks up for the local people, the British people. But the thing is, see, because you've got umbrella organisations like the Labour Party. The Labour Party now is just there to promote the ethnic groups. It's there. It doesn't care about the British people anymore. They're embarrassed that they belong to a nation, and they want to see our nation thrown into the gutter. And the Tory party, we used to believe the Tory party was patriotic. The Tory party is just the same. They're all globalists now, and they're all feeding in to this globalist agenda of no borders, of multiculturalism, of, egalitarianism, like socialists. It's a left-wing agenda, really. But it's all run by the corporations, the multi-billionaires. They're hoodwinking all the people. And you see, Liverpool is just a microcosm of what's happening across the board. We haven't got a MAGA army in Britain, a Make America Great army. We haven't got a Trump in Britain, but we've got to get organised. We've got to make our voices heard. Look at what the AfD's achieving in Germany now. They've got the establishment on the run in Germany. And this is in European country after European country. We've got to fight back against it. And we've got to get organised politically and socially. And that's what the National Housing Party is about. Pat?
Yeah, I think what John said a minute ago is quite key, that they basically have criminalised white British people from creating groups, associations. Like you said, there's a black association, a black policemen's association, there's a Muslim housing association, there's a Somalians women's group association. They have basically criminalised having white British group identity, and they created a lot of laws to stop people speaking out. And it's been a very kind of slow but monotonous process. And we can still stop becoming a minority. But as David Coleman said, if we don't stop current trends of immigration, we're set to become a minority by 2066. But the interesting thing about Liverpool, again, is that was the most passionate response to these people are crossing the channel, they're claiming asylum, the government are putting them in hotels, and the Knowsley protest was the most passionate and flashpoint that the country has seen. And, the National Housing Party, we don't go around just calling them illegals. We point out to the public that these people are claiming asylum. That is how they are getting into our country. By calling them illegals continuously is not educating the public, because most of the public can't understand that the government are putting these people in hotels because they are claiming asylum and it's not against the law. We have to criminalise claiming asylum, and that is one of our main policies, to leave the 1951 Refugee Convention, leave the ECHR. The ECHR, European Court of Human Rights, this convention only prevents them being deported. It does not help them get into the country. The UN Refugee Convention helped them get into the country, and Nigel Farage and all these semi-establishment figures, they only talk about the ECHR because they don't want to say we need to stop accepting refugees for citizenship, and that is the root of the problem. So that is where we are different from all these semi-establishment parties. But once we have left these conventions, we leave the Refugee Convention, we leave the ECHR, we introduce a 3-year mandatory prison sentence for anyone who turns up on the beach and gets caught. That's for, because then they will be illegal. Now, once we've done that, we're thinking about creating a policy. Once we've made it clear we do not accept any more refugees in this country, we need to have Royal Navy gunships to give clear warnings to these rafts what are approaching our shores, and we give them clear warnings: turn back. If you don't turn back, you're going to be sunk. That is the only way we can protect our country. This is a crisis. This is an emergency.
I don't think we probably need to go to that extreme, to be honest, Pat, because what we could do is say to these governments like Pakistan or, India itself or West African governments that we are going to send these people back to their own home countries, or we will stop aid. That's what Trump said. And that
you cannot send someone back with no identification papers. The countries will not accept them. And the people in the dinghies know this. That's why they won't give their identities. So once we've made it clear, we need to say, any of these dinghies approaching the shores are going to be taken out. That's the only way to stop it. And I like to know what they think about.
That's a little bit. It's a little bit extreme, Pat. I've got to
Well,
say that could
well,
not happen. There are other steps before then.
Once you've made it clear that we're not going to accept refugees and they just keep coming, how else are you going to stop them, Paul?
Well, first of all, you can get the boat and just tow it back to France. Secondly, you're wrong to say that the countries won't accept them. Trump said to the countries, look, if you don't accept them, we will stop aid and we will impose tariffs on your goods and we'll cripple your economy. And he just accepted them.
The identity of each individual, and this is the loophole. They will not give it, and that is why. If we had people in, say, Africa, and they said, we got someone here, they're English. Well, how do you know they're English? How do you know they're British? You need their real name and their identity. Otherwise, the country's not going to take them. And this is the problem. This is why we got 2 million illegal immigrants in the UK. And the government keeps saying, oh, we should give them citizenship. We'll get them to pay taxes because they know they can. Well, they're not willing to deal with a problem. And our ideas suggest we need to build thousands of detention centres, what can be later turned into council flats for our own people. And they stay in there until they leave the country, because until they get their documents. Because the problem we got at the moment is they refuse to give their real identities, and this is the problem.
See, the real problem is this, the fundamental problem. Christianity, the simple sense of right and wrong, has been replaced by wokeism as our national religion. And wokeism says this: people from the third world are always victims and are always have claim on our resources, and somehow we've been guilty for doing something wrong in the past and we owe them this, etc., etc. Now, wokeism is the religion of the globalist elite. This invasion is not happening because the government can't handle it. It's happening because the government want it, and they're doing the bidding of the global elite. The global elite wants a borderless world. They want to break down the nation state, but all it's creating is anarchy. All it's creating, we lose everything. This is the thing about Liverpool, right? Liverpool's being overwhelmed by mass immigration. What's in it for us? What do we get out of it? Nothing. We're overwhelmed. We're pushed to one side. All our heritage, all the greatness of this city will just be lost. It will just go up in smoke. And our children, those that remain, will have no future. I mean, what is the future for the white British if this invasion is not stopped? Because there is an invasion and it's accelerating. I mean, you just give a figure there, Pat. You just said 2066. I'll tell you what, we've got 15 years left maximum. In 15 years' time, the Muslim and African populations in this country will be more than big enough to assert themselves and have total control. It would be a war to wrest that control back from them. People have got to wait. I mean, the thing is, we're still living at the moment in a little bit of a comfort zone. It hasn't been broken down completely. It's becoming very desperate in terms of housing. You can't get housing now. It's so difficult. But we're about to enter, and this is the crux of it, an economic crisis. We're going to see a meltdown in the stock market, a meltdown in the public finances. We're going to see a meltdown in the financial situation. This is on the cards now. It's unraveling in China and across the globe. And we're massively in debt. And the government is going to have to make cutback after cutback. Which community are they going to target in these cutbacks? Who's going to lose access to benefits? Who's going to lose access to free education? Who's going to lose access to, reliable healthcare? It'll be the British people, because no one fights for us. This is why we need a political party, because when the going gets tough, we're going to have somebody that fights for us. If nobody fights for us, they'll just walk all over us, and the heel will be upon us and we will be destroyed. And that's the reality. We're going to have to, when the real world hits us again, when it gets harsh, then the truth will out.
The only way this situation is going to be solved is when a party gets into power who's willing to say no more refugees. And UKIP, Reclaim, Reform and Heritage, none of them are willing to say this. The Conservatives are never going to say it, and those parties I just mentioned, they're trying to do the same thing as what the Conservatives are trying to do. That's what they're trying to solve the problem with the same tools as what because they all say refugees are welcome here. That is their statement, and it all leads back to the Second World War. It's like a new religion. It's kind of taken over Christianity. It all leads from the World War II, which I will not go into in public because we can't have an honest debate about it. I could be arrested if I said the wrong thing. And at the end of the day, our whole society is built up about this false notion that about refugees and how we save the world and all this kind of stuff. And that is why they will never, ever, the people in power now and those semi-establishment parties I mentioned, they're never going to come out and say no more refugees. Because it's not easy to say it, but we need to save the country. The country's being ruined because of the flood at Dover, and they're all using the asylum laws to get into our country. Until that law is changed, the invasion is not going to stop.
What you've got to realise, Pat, and you do realise this, I'm sure about that, is that the British people are in denial about the reality that's unfolding. They've got their head buried in the sand. I mean, ostriches don't bury their heads in the sand when they're under attack. They're not that stupid. But for a long time, the British people have found it more convenient to look the other way, to pretend it's not happening, because they've been so hammered by the politically correct elite, telling them that they're racist or blah, 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 always condemning them. And then the police enforcing all these anti-free speech laws, and so, we're criminalizing people, as you said earlier, just for standing up for the ethnic group. So the British people have found a lot easier just to pretend it's not happening, stay in their comfort zone, don't rock the boat. Maybe UKIP will fight for us. Maybe the Tories will actually be patriotic, but we're down the road, aren't we, from a Labour government? And the Labour government, the last Labour government, was radical, was extreme. It empowered the ethnic minorities at every level. That's why they control the civil service now. That's why they control the police. That's why, 1 million English girls were sexually abused by Muslim grooming gangs, because the Labour Party is radically. The Labour Party only has one reason for it to exist now, and that's to destroy the British people. But they do it in a duplicitous way. They're treacherous. They pretend that they're still fighting on behalf of the common man. But the Labour Party has long ago kicked the common Englishman into touch. And of course, the same in Scotland. And whenever they get power, all they do is undermine us, undermine our families, stop us having children, and then ultimately they destroy us as a community and drive us out. So what we see is every city now, I talked about Liverpool being transformed. It's a shock to Liverpool now because it's happened very quickly and it's very recent. It's a bit like Ireland. But of course, Birmingham's been through this process. London. Where is London now, Pat? Where is it?
37% white British in London. And Sadiq Khan famously said that white British families are not the real Londoners anymore. And this is just like, it's just attack against the native population. And, like you said a minute ago, they've criminalised white British group identity. And we got to uncriminalise that and criminalise claiming asylum. It's like they've twisted all the laws the wrong way round. I don't know how they've done it. That's what they've done. We're being invaded, but National Housing Party are doing something about it. Every single person who's involved with this party, everyone knows who they are. We're not a massive party. We want more people to join, of course, but we can stand up tall and say we're trying to do something. We are literally trying to do something. All these protests and everything, in my opinion, is a waste of time. It's all about local elections. We need to get people elected. I mentioned 2 campaigns we need help with in Oldham and Merseyside. We've got another campaign in Leicester. And I saw Mark Williams in the chat there. Hopefully we're going to meet him one day. He can come and help in Leicester maybe. So anyone in the Midlands, who can come and help out in Leicester. We got a leafleting campaign coming up, and we're going to also need canvassers because we've got a really good candidate who's going to stand in one of the wards in Leicester. I'm doing really well in my ward. You know, I'm not going to say what's going to happen, but I've done 2 leaflets in my ward. I've got another 2 leaflets planned. I'm going to be knocking on doors for like 2-3 years every single week. I'm going to do it religiously because I've got such a good vote in my election. And the people who voted for me, they're just desperate to vote. They're just desperate for someone different to vote for. And they agree with practically everything I say to them. All they've got is the LibLab con. There's so many places around the country who are not even going to have one of those semi-establishment parties like UKIP, Heritage, Reform. You know, so we've just got to get involved and stand up and be counted. And we're just a little bit behind the mainland Europe because we had Brexit and we had to fight for that. And everybody kind of took the eye off the ball of the major national politics in this country. And we're like 2-3 years behind. Marine Le Pen, single-handedly, I've said it before, she's destroyed the equivalent to the Labour Party and the Tory Party in France. They had to parachute in Macron, the banker. The bankers had to parachute one of their boys in to kind of save the day, which he did the first time, just about the second time. The third time, he's going to lose. Marine Le Pen's going to win in the next one. France is 10 times worse than this country. Paris is like a refugee camp. And this is why they're never going to stop the boats leaving France, because they've got like 10 times more than what we've got. I'm not making excuses. But if I was a customs officer, a border force agent, and I was on a beach at Dover and I saw a dinghy with like 50 Muslims and Africans in the dinghy setting off for France, do you think I'm going to stop it? Come on. People have got to smell the coffee here, that we need to get a Christian nationalist party into power. We're a pressure group. So the more support we can get for our policies, the parties above us are going to take note and they think, oh, God, they're getting more support than us. We better get that policy. And that's how it works. That's how the BNP put the pressure on UKIP. UKIP put the pressure on the Conservatives. Conservatives called the referendum. It backfired and we won it. And that was all from voting, all from local elections. This is why we set the party up. We also strongly believe that we need to bring Christianity back into our society. And Paul Rimmer's leading the fight in our party for that. We have a Bible study every Wednesday, 7 o'clock. If you're a Christian and you'd like to come along, get in touch with us. You don't have to be a Christian to join our party. And if you're just interested in coming to the Bible study, please get in contact and you can come along and see what it's all about. You know, Jesus wasn't some soft hippie. You know what I mean? There was rules, you know, Acts 17:26, the nations, yeah? God created nations and Jesus preached this. And he wasn't very friendly with the money people, Paul. Tell him about that story.
Yeah, you know, I just want to say this first, Pat. We're not promising people an easy ride, and we haven't got, you know, we're not promising that we can actually turn it around completely, that we can stop all this. We'll try. We've got a heck of a mountain to climb. We're realistic about the challenge ahead. But it's important that we have somebody, however small, but somebody to speak up on behalf of the British people, because the British people are going to be under the cosh. Now, in 1955, during the general election, Winston Churchill was asked what slogan did he want to use for the Conservative Party, and Churchill believed in you know, 3 words: keep Britain white. That's his campaign slogan in 1955. Of course, that didn't get very far. But then in 1968, April 1968, Enoch Powell said, "You must be mad.